here in a second. So we'll go. There we go. Hey everybody, welcome to the Youth Sports Mastery here on the Daily Parks and Rec Show. I am Aaron Locks. I am the host, and I am so grateful to the guys that are going to join us today, Jonathan, Nick. I'm going to introduce you guys in a second, but I definitely want to spend a little time and be sure to thank Craig and the entire team from the Daily Parks and Rec Show. You guys do a phenomenal job. I also want to talk to the public out there, you Parks and Rec professionals. Keep it coming. The messages, information, love we're getting is phenomenal. So I really appreciate that. Craig, if you want to roll the information, and let's go from there, and then we can dig right in.
From a simple mic in a rec center to a full-scale media company for the people who power our parks. 200 real stories, 5 original shows, and more to come, with one powerful mission: to lift up the voices of Parks and Rec professionals across the country. From maintenance crews and young interns and youths who love sports, to directors and public servants making a difference. We've built a platform that honors the unsung heroes behind every clean trail, every weekend tournament, every safe, welcoming park. This milestone isn't just about the content, it's about the people, the passion, the purpose. To every guest, listener, and supporter, thank you. The next chapter starts today. This is DPRS Media Co. Media for public service. Are you a vendor, brand, or service provider ready to connect with the heartbeat of local communities? At DPRS Media Co., we tell the stories shaping parks and recreation across America. Through podcasts, live streams, videos, and newsletters, we reach frontline leaders, city directors, and decision makers every single week. From youth sports and facilities to programming and policy, our audience is your audience. Sponsoring or partnering with DPRS Media Co. puts your brand in front of the professionals who build, budget, and buy for their communities. Launching a new product? Growing your presence in public spaces, targeting cities, counties, or departments, DPRS is your trusted media partner. Whether you're in software, turf, aquatics, robotics, smart cities, or special events, partnering with DPRS puts your brand in the story. With commercials, interviews, social campaigns, newsletters, and live shows, we're your media team. Partner with us and grow your impact in the $200 billion parks and rec industry. DPRS Media Co. Stories that move parks and rec forward. Your audience is here. Let's meet them.
I don't know about you fellas, but every time I see that stuff, man, it gives me chills just to think of watching where this has come from and how it's building up. You know, I've been in Denver working with you guys, and we're building up the community here, and it's really been great. So I wanted to have you guys on the show and talk a little bit of the story. So, Jonathan, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit, your background, just so everybody gets to know why I'm so fired up to be hanging out with you.
Yeah, thanks again for having me, Aaron. My background is that I am a recovering attorney. I have been a corporate attorney for the last 10, 12 years now, which is hard to believe. Before that, I grew up in Florida playing youth sports, primarily baseball, through high school, some intramurals in college. And after learning that I wanted to move on to do law, I moved out to Denver, and that's where I'm here right now. And I found myself wanting a little bit more in my career the last couple of years. As anyone knows, in the corporate world, it can tend to be a little taxing on you, what the purpose of your job is, and you tend to lose a little bit of purpose maybe over time. And I started to feel that. And I'll stop there before we get into too much. But yeah, that's kind of why I'm here in the NAFA.
I love it, man. That's great. Yeah. And Nick, I have come to learn a lot about you, but I think it's important that the people that don't know you get a chance to meet you. So why don't you give a little background on yourself and kind of how you landed here as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Aaron. Yeah, so similar to Jonathan, I've been in commercial banking for about 15 years now, and the aspects of the job really enjoy. But ultimately, as Jonathan and I have talked over the years, just really found myself itching to do something to try to give back to the community, and have seen a lot of changes in youth sports over the years. So something I'm passionate about and something that's really meaningful. So this was great opportunity. So yeah, it's been exciting, and look forward to continuing to see this thing grow.
Nice. Well, I want to dive into the understanding of kind of your sports background because you guys are now, like it or not, you're Parks and Rec professionals, you're recreation professionals, right? And we saw today at a meeting, talking to recreation professionals, and there's been some phenomenal ones. By the way, hands up and cheers to those in Denver, man. We met some really incredible people out here. Let's go back to you, Nick. So tell me a little bit about your understanding of, let's start with Parks and Recreation and your involvement with Parks and Recreation, maybe as a kid and then as you move forward. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I mean, grew up playing, rec sports, primarily basketball, football, and then ultimately a little bit of track. But yeah, I mean, it was really fortunate to be able to participate in a lot of different sports. Sort of figure out that baseball maybe wasn't my thing early, basketball wasn't my thing. Really focused on football later in life, but yeah, had the fortunate opportunity to be able to experience a lot of different sports in my youth, and just sort of decide what fit me the best.
Nice. And how about you, Jonathan? You said you played baseball. What about your background in sports?
Yeah, that's kind of where I ended up, kind of focusing on once I got older. But as a kid, I soccer, baseball, football lasted all of one practice, golf in middle school. So it was a bunch, pick up basketball with friends at the rec center where I'm from in Florida. So trying out a lot of different things allowed me to figure out what I did and didn't like, and also what I had a little bit more talent at.
Yeah. And now you're a father of two, and you've been in one profession, and you hinted about it, but you said, you know what, I kind of want to do something that I can be more passionate about and feel there's more purpose behind it. So talk a little bit. I think it's important for those out there that are, Parks and Rec professionals, or people out there doing jobs, careers that maybe we don't love. I always say, people tell me all the time, you're lucky you're passionate about this. And my start, I don't know if I was passionate about it. I just worked really hard at it. And then it became my passion. You know what I mean? And it's tough because people that say, find your passion, well, that's great. But if you're no good at your passion, then ain't, you're going to be living on the streets. So finding the combination of the two, I think, is so valuable for you to have leaned in, go through law school, go through and be doing what you do, and then all of a sudden decide, you know what, I have this epiphany. Do you think it was around the kids as well as around what you were doing with your life and kind of what you do? Talk a little bit. If I know there's people out there right now, especially with all the chaos going on in the States and the world, that they might be able to pick up from your story.
Yeah, I am a father of two now. The oldest turns 3 in a couple of weeks. Our youngest turns 1 in a couple of months. So I'm right there in it right now, and seeing my oldest get to around 2, and you can start to see him develop some of those sort of, the hand-eye coordination a little bit as it gets started. You're like, oh wow, like, sports, I can like introduce him to sports a little bit. But the whole career shift thing was something that I started to think, is this really what I want my kids to see me as, right? And not that there's anything wrong. I've enjoyed my time as an attorney. I'm continuing to be an attorney too, right, in the background. But waking up every day, that was not what truly like lit me up anymore and excited. I wanted something better for my kids as I was looking for resources for them. And what I noticed was here in Denver, while there are sort of outlets for that, nothing really seemed to be the right fit. You had to do a lot of the more competitive and club stuff, as I'm seeing and looking ahead, what options are available. The available rec sports and options and leagues there's a sweet spot I think missing in the market right now, and what I saw from NANA I think can really fill that void.
Love that. And Nick, you guys, you and Jonathan have been friends for a while now, and you guys start having that conversation. What kind of drew you to it? I mean, you're obviously working in the financial sector, so you see, man, there's a lot of money in youth sports right now too, right? But what kind of drew you to this, and talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's interesting. We have seen a lot of, money come into sports, but, a lot of it's been primarily club and competitive sports, travel sports, things like that. And really, whenever I was talking with Jonathan, what drew me to it was his explanation that he had looked at a number of different opportunities, spoken with a number of different franchisors, and really gotten a feel for, their purpose and passion. And it had explained that his conversation with you was just very different. He could tell from your 40-year background in youth sports that you really cared about where youth sports was going, the impact of recreational non-competitive sports. So those are all things that just really drew me in. I mean, it's just so critically important.
So you mentioned the pink elephant in the room, club travel elite. And that's, everybody knows I'm very passionate about helping kids in the recreational space. I want more kids playing rather than less. You see the stats that it's crazy, right? We're looking at that when I was a kid. Yeah, I'm that old guy, but when you guys were kids, 9 out of 10 kids played on a team sport, right? Recreationally. And now it's country nationwide. It's like 5 out of 10. Like what's going on there? Nick, would you talk a little bit about the financial components? I know you're in the financial space, but just, what is your thought on it? And we don't have to pass judgment because you're not that guy, but just talk a little bit about, for those that are out there, there is a difference between private equity money and money that's being invested into sports, and maybe how it's maybe being focused or targeted and what the emphasis might be. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a good point. It's interesting that youth sports is now a 30-40 billion dollar industry, but fewer kids are playing overall. And whenever I talk with my friends that have older kids and things like that, there is just this huge push to club, to travel, and ultimately, what we've seen over the years is kids burn out. I think it's 70% of kids at age 13, something like that, no longer play sports. So, it used to be that, whenever Jonathan and I and even you, Aaron, were growing up, you could dabble in a lot of different things and figure out where your passion was and continue to play. And there's been a big change because of the money that's been put into youth sports.
And it's, when you listen to Project Play and the people that study this stuff, the emphasis has changed so much. And if it is big business, I am actually going to challenge every one of you in the Parks and Rec space to bring back that Parks and Recreation vibe, bring back that where you run the programs. If you're renting the fields out, I understand you got budgets, right? But if you can find a way to run the programs either in-house or through partnerships like the National CAF Athletics or others that are there for the right reason, I think we can bring that number from 48% to 55% to 60% and kind of build that back up. Hey, Jonathan, when you think of now, your dad, right? And you think back for what you wanted out of youth sports in your journey. Now, I know it's been a long time ago, but think about that for yourself. Do you remember playing the first time when you were younger and starting out, what that experience is like? You got anything around that? I'm just curious. I was thinking back because I remember my first time playing. My mom dropped me off at a baseball field and said, I was 7 years old. She was tired of me. And she goes, my dad had left. So I didn't have a male role model. So she pulled up to the baseball field and said, there's your baseball coach. I got out of the car. She locked the door and said, I'll be back after practice. That's how I get introduced to it. How about you, Jonathan?
Yeah, I don't know if it's like, the first days, but there are certainly some images, like pictures in my head or like memories. I mean, heck, I got like heat exhaustion one day. I remember that, right? Like playing outside with my dad hitting me grounders and stuff. I was very fortunate that both my parents took a lot of time to be with me and help me succeed, to the extent I did. But before that, they also allowed me to really experience the different sports, right? And that's something as a dad that I'm trying to mirror myself as, I'm new to the whole parenting thing. I'm trying to figure it out myself. I'm trying to take examples that I had from my parents. And one thing that I wanted to do, and I've been trying to ask questions of people who have done it before, is if I'm a new parent and I want to make sure that my kid excels or has the opportunities, what's the best way to do that? How do I know what they either like or are good at? So how do I do that? Do I force them to try certain things? Do I open all the doors and just be like, hey, you pick whatever you want to do? And I think it's that optionality that you provide kids as a youngin that is trying to sort of figure it out themselves. I think that's really important. I think that's kind of what we're trying to get at.
It's a great lesson for those of us that are parents out there. I'm grandpa now, so I'm looking at my same age in fact, but it's interesting thinking about those kids in that journey. Nick, you mentioned a little bit about playing multiple sports and getting lots of different experiences, right? And when you're growing up, you were a Parks and Rec kid, right? When you were coming up.
Yes, yeah, I was a Parks and Rec kid, and I mean that was grew up. Parents didn't have a lot of money, and so having access to a variety of different sports was critical, and being able to play that with siblings and friends and things like that, and the relationships you build are so meaningful. And unfortunately wasn't good at everything, so had to pick myself up off the ground a number of times and sort of deal with the fact that failure's a thing in life, and you've got to move past that, and you grow from that. So those are all really early lessons that I was able to learn as a young kid. So yeah, just really meaningful for me in general.
Easy for you to say. What's funny is it actually ties in, because if you think about it, Jonathan, we're talking about parents, and I guess this show we're going to dig in even deeper. But if you think about what we want for our kids, we want them to be independent and to be able to self-sufficient, right? I jokingly say I love it when my kids are off my payroll, right? But they're never really out of your life. They're your kids forever. But the ability to teach them, and I don't think there's any better life skill teaching tool than youth sports. I also remember arguing with Major League Baseball that they're trying to get kids to play baseball at 3 and 4 years old. Baseball isn't much fun at that age, you know what I mean? So, or I see them playing, NFL football at 4 years old. What, they can't catch and throw the ball. What are we doing? So finding that way. So Jonathan, as you navigate through, I'd be curious if we can call out a couple of things. You mentioned one, but what do you think are lessons that you'd like your kids to learn through sports? Maybe some that you've learned, because as we call these out, here's what I do know. We're going to learn something whether you play elite, club, travel. I got a really good friend of mine, Dr. Michael Herbert, who talks about he wanted his kids to play down when they were younger. You know what I mean? Just play and have tons of fun. There's no reason to be traveling all over the place. And we talked about it at dinner the other night. We're talking about this 7-year-old elite club team that's traveling all over the country. Why do they need to do that, right? But Jonathan, if you think about 1, 2, 3 things that you'd like your kids, maybe lessons that you learned, or maybe lessons you didn't get to learn, or experiences that you'd like your kids to get through sports, can you give us a couple?
The first thing that come to mind: confidence, teamwork, and probably perseverance. When you're playing sports, individual or team, there are moments where the eyes and cameras are on you, right? Per se, and I think it's important to know that you're prepared, right? There's practice. You prepare yourself for the game, which is like in real life. You have your moments where you're studying, or you're doing your schoolwork, and you're preparing for that test or that real world sort of exam, or heading into the office, right, with a meeting with the boss. Teamwork. As you jump into the real world, not all of us, unfortunately, can become a professional baseball player, or basketball player, or football player. So how do we bring the teamwork skill that you get of working together, relying on one another? As good as you are, you may be the best pitcher, but you know what? If no one on your team can hit or can field behind you, you are going to lose. You're going to fail. And
right.
to know that you need to rely on others and lift them up is very important. And the last thing is perseverance, right? It's getting through that failure. You are not always going to win every game. You're always not going to ace every test. So the ability to sort of bounce back, learn from it, get better. Those are probably the 3 big things that jumped on my mind.
Yeah, love that. I think that, again, the reason why I think that youth sports is so magical is because whether you want that or not, you're going to get that. You know what I mean? I don't care who you are. You know, you're gonna get those. Now, whether they learn the lesson or not, that's up to those wonderful sports parents to make sure that we allow that process to go through and allow it to happen. Right? Nick, I'm going to connect the dots. So there may be some business folks out here, but can you connect some of the ideas that Jonathan was talking about, those concepts, to your daily life in working in finance and working in, in big business, working in business? I think it's interesting to me. I see the connection all the time, but I'd love to have you as a different perspective, kind of give your thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I learned at a young age you can't throw a temper tantrum, and it holds true in business as well. Just being able to approach every situation with professionalism and not always getting your way and not always winning is just so important. So there's a lot of times where I see younger people in our career in various fields that haven't necessarily learned a lot of the same lessons. So maybe aren't as equipped to handle tough situations or difficult conversations with client or different partners. So it's just one of those things that all of those I didn't get where I was because I got as far as I am in banking today because of my perseverance and because I had to pick myself up off the ground and had to have some difficult conversations and with my bosses, with my coworkers, and had to navigate those relationships. And the teamwork aspect of sports is so important to that because, again, if you take the approach that it's you're a team and you're moving in the same direction as a company, it's so critically important. It's less about the self and more about the team. So all of those things are just so important. But it does seem like, for a variety of different reasons, and the changes in youth sports has definitely had an impact. But it doesn't necessarily seem like the younger generation that are coming up have those same skills, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, I think when I look at it, I'm not sure the kids have changed or if the parents have changed, right? And we know that there's a lot of money coming in. And since we're on the money and we're talking the money guy, let's talk about it. The private equity money and those things. Why do you think? Do you think it's just because it's a sexy thing to invest in? Or what do you think? Why are people in the private equity and the funding? Why do you think that's going in there? You think it has to do with, I know there's facilities. I know that there's clubs, elite and travel. Like what give me some background on that. I'm curious as to why you would think people would want to invest in, because it doesn't feel to me that they're investing in helping the kid be a better citizen. We had Dr. James Perry on before. I love Jim Perry. He was a camp director of mine way back in the day for Superstar Invitational and the best ever. And he talked about citizenship. When we talk about, for you, Jonathan, for your kids, for my kids, for kids out there, we want to create good citizens. And if they know how to fail and know it's not the end of the world and they learn how to compete, it's so valuable for them. But I'm curious, maybe you can talk about, the top down, the money coming down. What do you got, any insights on that or thoughts on that?
Well, I haven't. My guess is that if you provide a competitive league, you can say that you're the top tier and you're the best of the best of the best. So you can charge more money. So ultimately, it is sort of a concept of, if you're the most competitive league or club, then you can charge more money and ultimately make more money for the investor. So that's probably where the competitive nature of youth sports is sort of drawn from, which is unfortunate because ultimately, if you're thinking about what's best for our children nowadays, that's not necessarily it. But it's also easy to sell, right? I mean, Jonathan, as a parent, wants to do what's right for his children. My friends that have kids that are youth age sports want to do what's right for their children. And unfortunately, there's been a period of time where it was if you want your kid to be able to play collegiately and get a scholarship and ultimately, have a chance at professional sports, you're going to have to invest in them. And that's sort of what this concept has become, right? Is that you're investing in the future of your children, similar to saving for college. But this is a better way because they can get a scholarship and ultimately play for free, ultimately play and get into college for free. So it's just unfortunate because ultimately, over the last decade or so, there's been a lot of research that shows that that's not actually the case. And there's a lot of detriment to children, but that's, probably, my guess at the underlying cause.
Yeah. I belong to a group in Sonoma County where I live, which is Conscious Capitalists. And we look, you got to make money to stay in business, but there's a way to do it in the right way where you're caring for the community. We talked about it with the group at Inglewood today in Denver, Colorado about, win-win-win, right? The kids in the communities are going to win, right? The staff's going to win. The kids that are playing recreational sports, the perception has to match the reality. And that's what the challenge is right now. The perception is those kids aren't very good athletes. And that's not the case, right? And the perception is they're not very good coaches, Well, that's not the reality of it, right? Jonathan, one of the things that you did, which I love as part of the National Academy of Athletics family, is you did your research. In fact, to be honest with you, you did a lot of research, and I'm glad you did. And you asked every question, and some that I'm like, okay, where's this guy coming from? But it was great because I knew that by awarding you guys a franchise, awarding you the opportunity to do this, that you were the right guys to do this. You have the right heart for it. You have the right acumen in terms of business, entrepreneur spirit, the mindset, all those factors. That being said, I'm curious about your mindset in terms of maybe what was some of the deciding factors that made you to say, you know what, I've done my homework and I'm choosing National Academy of Athletics. And then as we went through the process, we're able to award that to you. Can you give me a couple of those factors?
Yeah, going back a little bit to what I was saying earlier about looking for more meaning and fulfillment in the work I was doing. So this whole exploration started for me a couple of years ago. I ended up going down the path of looking into other industries, but I was looking at it more from a money perspective only. And I got to the point of being awarded, had the contract inside of me. And when I was making the decision and talking to my wife about it, I was like, lawn care is not what I want to do. That's not my passion. So then I took a step back. And then, when I started to get that itch again earlier this year, and I found National Academy of Athletics, I looked, at the normal, I think, sites probably that people look for first. If they're just looking for franchises or other business opportunities, like what lists, what industries, or stuff like that. And you start to see certain names, you reach out to them, you get a feeling for, what territories are available, what the right fit is, their management style, how they're structured. Some just seem to be a little bit more, we have a space for your child, come drop them off and we will watch them, right? What I liked about National Academy of Athletics specifically was, sure, we watch your kid, but we're teaching them sports. We're teaching them the fundamentals and also how to have fun out there. You're learning all the social skills you get by playing sports outside or inside on the court. So to the outsider, it may seem like a small difference, but when you get into it, the gap is actually pretty large between what National Academy Athletics difference really is, and you need to have that conversation to really sort of make it come alive.
Love it. So here's the commercial. If you're a Parks and Rec professional who's looking to pivot, or if you're doing something you don't love, come on, we're looking, we're expanding, we're having fun doing it. All right, I'm off my soapbox, but now I appreciate it, and I love the fact. I know we're coming up on the break, but I want to really quick, Nick, give you 30 seconds to give me this in the sense that how has being involved with National Athletics changed your life in the past, for 3 months into it, whatever it is, you've been in a little bit and you're going through your training and everything. Give me a change. Hopefully something positive, but who knows? I'm ready. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's provided that extra level of meaning and motivation, honestly. I wake up every day knowing that I'm focused and targeted on helping the next generation of kids. And that's, it's critically important. So, Like I said, there's aspects of my day job that I like that I get to help community and things like that. But this is day in, day out what we're doing and helping explain to our community partners that we're different than other, quote unquote vendors.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and Aaron, if I may, just what I've also seen too is waking up, being excited, doing something that gives you that sort of inner meaning and purpose. It makes me better in other parts of my life too. Just happier and just better all around.
I love that. Love that. All right, we're going to go to break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about the relationships of what's being built and a little bit of celebration and appreciation for the Parks and Rec professionals out there. So go ahead, Craig. We'll hit that when we come back on the other side.
Behind every thriving park, every safe playground, every event-ready field, there's a team working before sunrise and long after sunset. This is facility maintenance, the only show created for and by the unsung heroes of Parks and Recreation. Brought to you by DPRS Media Co, where real work gets real recognition. From restrooms to rec centers, HVAC to turf tech, we go beyond the job site into the heart of operations that keep our communities moving. Our mission? To elevate maintenance teams through stories, solutions, and shared experience. Our vision? A world where every facility crew is seen, valued, and fully supported. Each episode features operators, innovators, and leaders, sharing tools, tech, and tactics that make the impossible look easy. Facility maintenance isn't just a job, it's purpose, it's passion, and now it's a show. Facility maintenance, where tools meet purpose, where work becomes legacy.
At DPRS Media Co, we don't just create content, we elevate community through storytelling. Now, we're proud to introduce the newest addition to the family. Welcome to Youth Sports Mastery, the podcast where champions are shaped, not just on the field, but in life. Hosted by National Academy of Athletics founder Aaron Locks. Youth Sports Mastery dives deep into how youth sports can empower kids, strengthen communities, and build leaders. From coaching culture to recreation strategy, and from player development to parent impact, every episode brings game-ready insight from the people making it happen. Youth Sports Mastery goes live every Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Only on the Daily Parks and Rec Show, sponsored by National Academy of Athletics. And powered by DPRS Media Co. This is where purpose meets play.
Welcome back to the Youth Sports Mastery. We're sitting here with Jonathan and Nick in Denver, Colorado, talking youth sports and recreation. We've had the blessing of the last couple of days spending some time with some amazing Parks and Recreation professionals. And actually, what's going to be great is some of them are going to come on the show. I'm excited to share their story. I think it's been great. I want to talk about mission. I want to talk about the Parks and Rec mission. And I know this for a fact as someone I call myself a Parks and Recreation professional, even though I've not been working for a Parks and Rec district, but that's what we do. We want to be one of you guys. We want to work together and we want to lift the communities. We know for a fact, you know all the stats, that communities that have strong Parks and Recreation departments, the kids are healthier, right? There's less likely for them to get in trouble because they got something fun and positive to do. So I'm going to put Nick and Jonathan, I'm going to play a little ping pong with them and have a little fun. We'll go to Nick first. Nick, we got to have a chance to meet with a couple yesterday, not a couple people yesterday at a rec center. Let's call it out a little bit and just give me a little bit about the excitement that you felt and looking at the facility at the field house and that journey. Because to me, I feel like sometimes as Parks and Recreation professionals, we get to a position where we get stuck. We're kind of pigeonholed into what we've always done and how we do it. And I don't know about you, but it was refreshing yesterday to feel the vibe from them and kind of step through that. So tell me a little bit about this. Share with everybody. Take a couple minutes, whatever you need, to share that journey and what that was like and how that process is going to work.
Yeah, we were down at Parker Parks and Rec, their field house, and got to just see their facilities, which are beautiful. and talk with a couple of the rec coordinators down there, and just spend some time with them and learn about what all programs they're offering, and their successes. Most importantly, their successes and what they're seeing in youth sports and how many kids are involved. They've got some really good programs that they run, but also, some of their struggles. And, that's where we fit in well is, our whole mentality and mantra is to help community partners and Parks and Rec in particular deal with their struggles, get better, be able to provide a higher level of service ultimately, but just take some things that aren't so great off their plate. So, that's where, I mean, we heard multiple times yesterday, just they're two people, they only have so much time in a day. Yeah. They've got so many ideas and so many great things that they'd like to do if they had more time. And that's where we fit in well is, hey, give us some ideas. What are your struggles to make you more efficient? How can we help? So that's really the mission and what we're working on providing here in Denver.
It was really cool to me because, again, we partner with over 350 municipalities now, and it's funny because the story is pretty much the same, right? Now, some have better facilities, some have a little more staff, but everybody's got budget issues, let's be honest, right, with the cuts that's going on. And everybody's saying the same thing. We want to serve the community, and some of them have really great programs they're doing a long time, and others are like, hey, we just need help with this, right? Pickleball is the fastest growing thing. We've tried, we can't figure it out, help us, right, or whatever it is, right? And some need help with registration, some need help with marketing, whatever the case is. I thought it's been great. That particular group just being able to sit there and they just were able to just break it down, help us with the coaches, right? The parent volunteers, right? How do we make the leagues better for the kids, right? And again, they're serving a lot of the community, but how to be able to do that, right? Jonathan, let's pivot to Brandon. Let's talk with him a little about that scenario. And again, now we walked in, it was interesting because we walk up to the facility and it says closed, and we're like, oh, we missed the boat. They were just closed because they were renovating, but man, what a great facility there. Talk about that journey a little bit and how that partnership is going to work and how that all came about.
Yeah. Funny thing is, it was the first phone call I made, which was a little intimidating coming into it new, right? And like, I don't know anything. And, but he was very gracious, as a lot of the folks are in this space, right? Like, they don't care. All they care about is service and access, right? They want to serve their community. Once they realized that I was there to try and be an extension of them and to serve their community, Brandon was great from the beginning because he could start to understand that, right? He could start to understand we're here to help them out, right? Like, where are your pain points? How can we relieve that for you, right? And but yeah, I mean, you can see in their facility, several facilities. They look great. They're in great shape. They do annual maintenance, like you said. Like, we thought we were locked out, and there he goes. And he pops in and helps us in. But gave us a nice tour of some of the stuff that they're doing already, and some of the stuff that he's hoping to do. And I think this is going to be a really good partnership moving forward. We can help bring some of that fun back, some of those fun activities that maybe is outside of the core sports, right?
Right. I loved his philosophy and the passion. It's funny, you see the ones, I don't know about you guys, but I get inspired when I hear the stories and we see what's going on. It just gets me because they're obviously, it's like Nick, I think you said it earlier, it's a teacher, right? The teachers aren't there for the big bucks, right? You know what I mean? They love to help the kids and the passion for that. And that's one of the things I feel so blessed when I get to travel throughout the country, because everywhere we meet these amazing parks and recreation professionals. We get to, again, stay on that same mindset. I gotta admit, and Nick, you can maybe throw a little bit out there about our meeting today, which was really cool. I just thought, again, what an amazing facility, but what a great guy, Avery, as well. So what center was that again? That was
Inglewood Parks and Rec. Yeah. So yeah, went down, had a little bit of time.
With an E. Inglewood with an E, right?
Yeah.
I worked at Inglewood Parks and Rec with an I in Los Angeles area, but Inglewood with an E. All right, go for it. Sorry.
Yeah, and one of the things I didn't get to tell Avery, which I'm sure we'll talk about, is my dad actually grew up in Inglewood years ago. So very long time ago. So it's changed a lot. So it's sort of a south city of Denver Metro, and great community. You can tell. I mean, in speaking with Avery, you can tell his passion for youth sports and just the alignment that we've got with how youth sports has changed, and really our mutual interest in bringing it back to just a fun thing where kids can be kids and make mistakes and have fun and learn great life lessons, and ultimately figure out if they're good at a sport, and if that's for them to move forward. So it was a little bit of a whirlwind meeting. So definitely wish we would have been able to spend some more time with him. But even in the short amount of time that we were able to spend with him, could tell that we're very well aligned. And look forward to being able to see how we can partner.
Yeah, absolutely. The fact that Parks and Recreation runs recreational sports programs, in my opinion, better than anybody. And I say that in a sense with partners that actually can help. Like one of the things that the National Academy of Athletics does, I think very well, is that obviously the coaches training, right? The background checks and the fingerprints, everybody does that stuff, right? They better, right? But also the classroom management, the talk, teach, play, the bully prevention, the things that that elevate us, that can help elevate them. And I thought what was really cool with Avery, particularly, he said, hey, my job is to make my boss look good, right? So we're making the kids in, and our job is to make them good. And it seems like it's just a real clear understanding and full circle. So I thought that was really cool in that.
100%.
Jonathan, as we move forward with these centers, and it looks like, coming spring, you're going to have a lot of programs out there, you're going to be going forward like that. I'm curious if you could give a little bit of insight of, in your mind, what does a good, okay, again, going to your kids, what you want the experience for your kids, but what does a good youth sports program look like? So when you come out there, you're a parent and you show up there, what does that look like for a kid? Because if you're a Parks and Rec professional, and you got, whether you contract with people or you're running in house, let's listen. What did Dad want? Dad, what do you want to do?
I don't think it's too difficult. I mean, just like any other personal relationship, right? The first thing you're going to see is your first impression, right? How does it look like when you walk in? Are the coaches sort of dressed appropriately? Do they look like they're there to provide a good experience to your kids? But when you actually get down into it, is that coach engaging? Are they making sure the kids are having fun, and not just the kids that they can see that can throw the ball a little bit further, right? But just all the kids are having fun and doing something. One thing I think that gets lost in some of the more competitive side of things that leads to a lot of the burnout that we're hearing about is things may be too difficult, right? So if your kid is not top tier, they may unfortunately ride the bench a little bit more, right? And then they get sort of down on themselves, and then they're like, I don't want to do this anymore, right? If it's too easy, they're going to get bored, and then they're going to be like, well, why do I want to keep doing this? So I think the sweet spot is something that your kid is being challenged just enough where they can experience success, but also, hey, I can do this a little bit better, I think, right next time. So I think that's what I'd be shooting for as a parent, right? That's something that's engaging, it's fun, but it challenges them to the extent that they can still take away some success and learn from some of those failures.
Yeah. It's funny because Dr. Herbert, the guy that created the National Academy of Athletics curriculum with our team, talks about proximity challenges. Easy for me to say. And he talks about making sure that it's challenging enough for they to grow, but it's not too challenging where they can't have successes, right? So our curriculum that we've designed is based upon that. And Parks and Recreation has always been great because every kid gets a chance to play. You know what I mean? And that's so important because part of it is the belonging, but then what's that fine line between pushing yourself to get better and pushing yourself to learn and grow, and finding that balance. And I think that, without bragging about it, I think we've done a pretty good job of doing it. Again, I learned that from, John Wooden, who probably did it at the top of the level, and he did have the best in the world, but he always found a way to challenge them every single day to keep them challenged. And I think Nick, I want to talk about competition with you a little bit. I think that, in your space, it's probably pretty competitive to get a bid or to win a deal or whatnot, but learning to compete. And I know I say this sometimes when I say compete and everybody freaks out because there is two levels of competition. There's the freak out competition that if you lose, the world's going to end and they throw a tantrum, right? And then there's the other side, which is you're going to compete. Nick, if you and I are going to play a game of chess, I'm going to try to kick your butt. And when we're done, you win, I win, whatever. We fist bump and we reset, spin the board, and let's go again. And that's what we want. We want these kids. And I don't think that Uber competitive does that. I think the recreational space does that because there's so much opportunity to Joe Montana talk about fail fast, fail forward. But Nick, let's talk about competition. You deal with competition every day, right? You don't win every deal, I would imagine.
No, I win very few deals. So have to take a lot of at bats, but I mean, it is similar to baseball, right? I mean, in baseball, like we've talked before, I mean, if you're successful 30% of the time, you're doing pretty well. So, unfortunately my success rate's a little bit lower than that, but, it's ultimately, business is competitive. Banking is competitive, and this, and every aspect of life is going to be competitive. So, unfortunately, that's just what we need to find out and what we need to learn as kids. And, I was fortunate whenever I was a kid to learn that I'm not the best at everything. I am going to fail. And, there is a second and third and fourth and fifth place, and that's okay. And ultimately it drives you, or it drove me to be better, and try to be more successful. So it's one of those things that you figure out over the course of time what you're good at and what you can lean into, but you've got to pick yourself up a lot in order to get there. So and that's, I think, really what rec sports and youth sports does, if done correctly, is you figure out, okay, falling isn't bad, failing isn't bad. And there's people around me and coaches around me that care about me and want me to be better and the best version of myself. And maybe it's not baseball, maybe it's not football, maybe it's basketball, or maybe it's not sports in at all. So, but that's what I had in my life whenever I was a kid, and I think ultimately that's what led to the success I've had as an adult.
Yeah. Sometimes I think I heard something the other day, which was interesting. If a parent or a volunteer coach or anybody at any given time yells at a child during the game to do something, they're taking away the opportunity for that child to learn to make the decision. And I'm a big fan of kids learning to push the limits. Right? As a parent, it drives you nuts, right? But it's so important for them to take safe challenges, right? To push the limits, because that's how they learn to grow, right? Getting up and falling down, walking, or whatever the case is. Jonathan, I'm going to throw you a curve ball because you were a pitcher, so get ready to hit this one. I don't know how good of a hitter you were, but I'm wondering, how would that translate to law? Because they do say, law is by the book, right? So there's got to be some black and white, but there's also got to be a little bit of gray area. Intended Jonathan Gray, but there's got to be a gray area there. But I'm just curious. It just came to me, but I'm just thinking in law, right? You play in the space, right? You admit that you're a recovering attorney. So talk a little bit. I'm curious in terms of how you think youth sports can translate, and maybe anything that you may have picked up at. I'm curious if there's anything there.
Yeah. Youth sports to the profession of law. Is that kind of what you're trying to get at?
Well, I'm just thinking maybe any lesson that you might have picked up out of that, or how sports, how failure, how the journey, how any of that may translate into legal. Like when you go into a legal situation, you've already talked to. I know I'm trying to prompt it, but you've already talked about things that you've learned, right, through this experience that you bring into the legal field.
Okay. Yeah. So, there's lots of different types of law. The type that everyone kind of talks about and sees on TV is not what I practice, but that's the courtroom drama stuff. But no, dealing with a lot of contracts and agreements, the quickest way to a yes in a deal isn't necessarily straight, right? You might need to swerve one way, duck the other way. So going through youth sports, right? If you're trying to learn how to hit a curveball, for instance, or throw a curveball, I'll stick with the throwing part because I'm a little more.
Fair enough, you're a pitcher. I got it.
But you need to do things differently than when throwing a fastball, right? There's the arm angle is probably maybe the same, but you're going to be doing things a little bit differently with your grip and the velocity as your arm goes through the throwing channel there. So in the legal profession, it's kind of the same. The world around us is changing very, very fast, and you need to learn to adapt on the go. Seems like every month there's some new sort of law coming out there, particularly lately, a lot of privacy and AI type stuff, right? So you just got to learn to adapt, right? And I think that not just in the law too, but I mean in any sort of profession now, I mean you just have to really, just be flexible. Things will change and you need to adapt to it.
We got him there. Yeah. I mean, you and I had a conversation. You may not remember, but I remembered back, and you were talking about the translation of it. And I just thought it was interesting to, put it in your own words, but I'm going to use your words for you in the sense that you talked about that life is not always black and white, and the ability to adapt, to improvise, to overcome these things we learn through youth sports. That this is what I love. When the kids come back from a program and they don't even realize how much they learned, right? And as you're going to see, Jonathan, as a parent, your kid is going to go to a Parks and Rec program and they're going to have a great time and the whole deal. And you're going to say, what'd you learn today? They're going to go, oh, I don't know, right? Did you have any fun? Yeah, it was all right. Whatever. You're not going to get that. But then you're going to watch them do something. You go, wait a second. They got new balance that I didn't realize they had before. Whatever it is, it's going to happen. And I think intrinsically, that's where they get this stuff from, right? Across the board. So I know I'm grilling you guys a little bit on this stuff, but I really think it's interesting coming from different professions. I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I'm just a dumb jock, and I've worked in the space my whole life. I've never had a day job. I've just, but if you start with the top, you just stay with it, right? So, Nick, I'm looking for tips from a financial standpoint of somebody who maybe is doing something. Maybe not a Parks and Rec professional, maybe someone that's worked for a while in life, or maybe they just got laid off and they're looking to do something different. They're looking at Jonathan and going, well, can I be Jonathan? Can I be Nick? Can I do that? What tips would you say, either what to look out for or, financially in terms of prepare yourself to be able to lean in, whether it's the National Cav Athletics franchise or something else? Because I will say this, people, if you're out there working a job that you absolutely hate and it's miserable, if you can, right? If you're going to spend 8 or 10 hours a day doing something 5 days a week, please try to find something you enjoy or find joy within it. But if you can't, and you're trying to lean and try something different, and I know I'm putting you on the spot, Nick, but what the heck, you get a curveball too.
100%. Yeah. It's interesting. I think about the PE teacher that we just talked to at a school in Metro Denver, and the fact that he retired from insurance and is now doing his passion. I mean, he went to the school, the elementary school. His kids went there, and he just wants to give back, and passionate about physical education. And that's really, I mean, whenever I think about Jonathan and I think about the other franchisees we've met, and your team, Aaron, there's a lot of alignment with, and even the marketing person and executive assistant that we've hired. I mean, the one thing that we all connect on is our passion for youth sports, what it's meant for us growing up. And it's interesting because you don't really notice, as you'd said at the time, hey, I'm learning all these skills, but decades later, you look back, you're like, man, why am I able to persevere? Why am I able to, deal with the daily grind? And these are all, lessons that you learn subconsciously. So you don't even learn at the time as a kid, probably, or don't recognize that. But I mean, if you're, I think to me, if you're looking for more meaning and something that you're passionate about, and you've had that experience, which many of us have, of, recreational youth sports was meaningful to you, had an impact, you see what's going on in youth sports, and the effect, the fact that there's so many kids that don't get that ability and don't have that opportunity now. If you have that passion and don't necessarily love your day and day job, I mean, I would absolutely consider NAFA. It's been great for Jonathan and I, and I'm sure, I mean, there's many others that every person that we've talked to and seen join has been super passionate and super happy about their decision.
Good stuff. I think so much of it has to do with the Parks and Rec space, right? I think obviously I'm very proud of our team, from Larry and Michael and Kevin and Taylor and everybody that supports everybody. I love you guys. Thank you for what you do. Right, we wouldn't be here. And I'm also just loving the Parks and Rec space. The more and more that we do that. But I want to talk a little bit. We've only got a few minutes left. I want to talk about schools. I want to pull on a thread. Nick, you talked about physical education. It is really sad to me. I was a kid that had physical education 5 days a week. I had recess, I had lunchtime, and I played everything out of school. Like you said the other day, my mom's favorite thing to say is go outside, right? And go away. And kids may not be getting that experience. So, Jonathan, let's talk PE a little bit. Let's talk about your mindset in the sense that your kids are going to be going to school, and the fact that a lot of schools don't have PE teachers. They don't have PE teacher on a regular basis. Would you talk a little bit about that, maybe your mindset around that, and we can educate a little bit, because we do work in the school space. 30, 40 school districts are using our team with my Talk, Teach, Play system to teach physical education. But talk a little bit about your mindset on the physical education side of things with schools.
Well, yeah, I mean, we touched on it a little bit earlier. Things have changed, and not always for the better. I had PE like every day, and you looked forward to it, and it got energy out, and it allowed you to sit down and like focus a little bit better. And you guys probably know some of the stats better than I do, but I know that when you don't have all that excess kid energy running through your veins, and you just need to move around and fidget all the time, you're going to be better in the classroom and be able to learn. And I know I was academically like as good as whatever I was, because I was able to do that, right? And I was very surprised as a new parent. I'm learning. It's like drinking from a fire hose. So many school options now. It's not just like go to the school next to you. You have to research everything. And I'm very surprised to hear all the changes on the physical education side within schools. It's one of the schools we recently talked to. It's, hey, we have PE. We have a full-time PE teacher, but we cycle through specials on a 3-week basis, which means, if a kid has PE 1 week, they go 2 additional weeks where they don't have PE at all. They have some recess, but not structured PE. And then it's only that 4th week where they go and get back into PE. So there's a lot of time there that they're not getting, that PE education, and they're relying strictly on a short period of time for recess.
Yeah. Man, I see the stats about diabetes. I see the stats about childhood obesity, and Parks and Rec helps a lot with keeping kids active after school. We do after school programming, whatever we can do to be a part of it. Physical education out there, however we can be a part of it. If your teachers out there, but if you're looking for physical education, let us know. We can help. We want to work together. So we got about a minute and a half left here. I want to make sure. So Nick, if someone wants to get in touch with you because they want to learn what's going on with the National Cap Athletics, opportunities to work with you, whether they're a Parks and Rec in the Denver area or they just want to find out more, contact you, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Email address is Nick, NICKR, at naofathletics.com, or they can call Jonathan or I at 303-876-0574.
Awesome. And Jonathan, same for you, same question. And also, you guys have a Facebook and a web page, right? Website. You want to give us some information on that, either of you guys?
Yeah, I mean, you can find us Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I think we're on Nextdoor as well. So we're trying to make ourselves visible. We're trying to make access easier. The programs that we have coming up, looking like in the spring, is going to be when we're kind of getting things set up to really launch program wise. That information will be out there for everyone. And yeah, we're pretty excited to get out there.
Fired up as it is. All right. Well, I want to thank you both, not only for, the time being able to hang out with you guys here in Denver. It's been amazing. I'm blown away with the city. But I'm also just enjoying you guys being on here today and telling the story. I think it's so important to be able to share with what's going on. Next week, we got another wonderful special guest coming on. I want to thank Craig and the team and everybody on the Daily Parks and Rec Show. And I will see everybody next week on the Youth Sports Mastery, where we talk everything, talk, teach, play. Thanks, guys. See you, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks.
Welcome to DPRS Media Co, the first media company built for the people behind the Parks and Rec community. We don't just cover on Parks and Rec, we elevate it, we amplify it, we honor it. At the heart of everything we do is one mission: to serve the public servants, the professionals who design, maintain, and lead the parks that shape our communities. Under the Daily Parks and Rec Show, we produce 6 powerful platforms. Leadership in Parks and Rec, a spotlight on directors, superintendents, and visionaries shaping the future of public spaces. Facility maintenance, where the boots hit the ground, a deep dive into the systems, crews, and craftsmanship that keep our parks clean, safe, and beautiful. Young Professionals Network, shining a light on the next generation of Parks and Rec. Students, interns, and mentors sharing how we build a legacy together. Youth Sports Mastery, sponsored by National Academy of Athletics. This series is for coaches, parents, and rec leaders working to make youth sports fun, fair, and meaningful again. The Rec Room, hosted by the passionate leaders of Henry County Parks and Rec. This show brings frontline energy and real-life stories from the field. And the weekly Parks and Rec Post, our official newsletter delivering stories, insights, and community wins every week. We are DPRS Media Co, LLC, a media company with a mission to uplift the professionals who serve every community, every park, every day.